Get ready to get here live, and we're online. Amen. We are here. We thank God for tonight. We want to welcome those who are joining us, whether you be joining us on Facebook or whether you be joining us on YouTube. Um, we thank God for you joining us, and we ask that you share this and let someone know that we're on. I believe tonight is going to be an encouraging and empowering. And I don't know why I'm looking over there because Cameron's over here.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I was looking over there too.
But I was just staring over there. But I believe this is going to be an encouraging and empowering night. Let me tell you how this first started before we get into it and stuff. And I believe there's a lot of information that this young lady has, and that she's gonna share, and we're gonna share tonight. We were sitting in the car, and we were just discussing some stuff. If anybody knows our daughter, anybody's ever been around her, and let me tell you a misunderstanding, a misconception some people have, because she's not a yapper. You know, she's not gonna publicize her business to you. She goes through things believing and trusting God. She's not always going. You're not always going to know all her business. She's not going to do that, and it doesn't mean that people like that are stuck up. It just means that they're trusting God and trusting God's investment in them. And sometimes the more people know about what you're going through, the more they try to tell you what they don't know about what you're going through. And so she's that kind of person. Yeah. But we were sitting down in the car, and we just started talking about life. We started talking about some things that people go through and the things they have to deal with when going through some things. And she began to talk about some things, and it blessed me. I said, wow. I said, people in life general needs to hear this. And I said, so we need to set a platform and a time where this is shared, and where she begins to share this with people, because in our life, and one of the things the Lord said to me in helping to set this up was that there are plenty of things that go bad in our life. There are things that go bad. There are things that we make choices about, or we make decisions about, and sometimes people on the outside seem to think that I made those choices just to be bad. I made those choices to rebel against the norm. I made those choices to show that I can make choices because I want to make choices. And sometimes these choices that we make seem good at the beginning, but as they unfold, the decisions that we make in those seem to cause it to go sour, or things go sour. They just go sour. We don't plan it like that. And then we get in them. And once we get in them, now we're at a place of, now how do we deal with this? How do we make the best out of this? How do we turn this thing around? And at the beginning, this is where sometimes I believe it blows people's mind, is that when we first find out that it's not good, how come I don't just get out? Well, that's the thing that Tony's going to share, and that's the first kind of thing I want to throw out to her, and I want her to remember this as I say this last statement. How do we don't just get out? Well, we don't get out. We don't get into something, no matter how bad someone else looking inside may see it. We don't get into something just to quit. And it may seem sometimes like an emergency to me and stuff, when it may not always seem like an emergency to them. Now, I'm not saying, and neither will you hear her say, that we need to just lay down and let things go the way they are. But it's not as easy as the outlook. We can, on the outside, we can have this kind of energy of observation that sometimes gives us more power and strength to make a decision that people on the inside sometimes don't make. So I guess the first question is or the first statement that I want you to roll off of is, no, we don't get into something that for it to go bad. But sometimes we get into stuff and it turns sour, or it turns toxic. And now I have to decide, what do I do from here? Where do I go from here?
Where do I get the strength to do this? Can I do this?
And what is my next? You know, and this thing defines relationships, defines jobs, define connections, define church. Church people. And yet the main course, yes, is about relationships, but it doesn't not just that. Life itself can be toxic. Right. And so there's things we have to deal with. And so, Tony, where we at? What do we do? We're in this position and stuff. We're in life. We done made a decision, we made a choice. Okay, now this choice is forcing me to think about some things.
Like how to get out, or what are you doing?
Oh, how do I get out? How do I deal with this? How do I get myself to make the choices that may feel comfortable to me, even though they may not be right. They may not be right. They may not, but those are the choices or processes sometimes that I find myself going through when I end up making a choice or making a decision that turns out to be toxic or doesn't turn out to be beneficial to me.
I think first for me, the first thing that I did was I had to realize why I got in it, why I made the decision, why I felt like it was important to get into such a big commitment and make such a big life choice without thinking about it or without weighing the options, because before I got into the situation, it was sinful. So I felt like if I do this, I'll fix it.
Right.
And instead of fixing it, I messed everything up. And I didn't realize it at the time. It was a quick fix. I thought, okay, everybody is saying this, so let me just go ahead and do this and then fix it, and everybody over here be quiet, and then it'll be fine.
Wow.
But instead it wasn't. It just turned into something even more toxic and turned everything upside down.
Now, before you go on, I want everybody to hear. I'm looking over at Ken. I want everybody to hear what she said. We make choices sometimes, and we hear a lot of voices. There are a lot of things. We hear voices sometimes, and they're not saying anything. We see them by actions. We see them by attitudes. We see them by behaviors. And sometimes we assume or we form that some behaviors or things are saying things to us. So now what we're trying to do is not only answer with maybe I made a bad decision, but I have to answer with maybe somebody else also thinks I made a bad decision. So now and as she said, when I first started making a decision, when I started doing it, it was sinful. So now I had to deal with the sin part of it. But sometimes what we need to understand is that sometimes the decisions that would be right in other circumstances or situations may not be right in this one. So now here comes a whole nother door being opened, because I'm answering off the consciousness of other people and not listening to the wisdom that I would normally have.
I had a question with that. With the decision that was made, how come it is that, it's not just that one decision that can be made? Okay, a decision, when it comes to a point, okay, I have to make a decision. It's either to get out or go deeper in. What makes people make that decision to go deeper in than to get out?
For me, I felt like, well, y'all know me, I just didn't do relationships at all. So I felt in my head, well, maybe I should just go ahead and try this. It won't be that bad. But in the back of my mind, I knew it was wrong because of the way I did it. Young. So, yeah.
Well, you know what? I think sometimes one of the problems is, as we begin to get in this a little bit more, is I think that's where the church makes a mistake at. And sometimes we make a mistake at as we begin to deal with this, because we want to come from, you're in this, it doesn't look good while you're going deep into it. And the process sometimes is not that quick. The process is not that quick. Sometimes is, I'm in this and I don't know how deep I'm in it because I haven't tried to get out. Or I haven't thought about the process of getting out. I don't think I thought about was, how can I work this thing out? How can I make it better? How can I do it and stuff? And then it comes later when we realize, ooh.
And then sometimes too, in those situations, you feel like even though it's bad, it's still providing you with something that you felt like you were missing or that you needed or that you were shunning. So while part of it feels good, even though it's bad, the good part outweighs it at that time. So you feel like, okay, if I get deeper in it, the good has to get better.
Wow. Okay.
The more I put myself into it.
Right.
The more I put the good part of me into it and stuff, or however we form it in our own hearts and minds, I can make this thing better.
Right.
Right. Especially the more I move it away from the sinful part of it. Right. The more I move it away from the sinful part of it to try to make it better. I know it's got to get better.
Twisted way of thinking, because it's like, okay, yeah, I'm living in sin, but now I'm not. So it's gonna be all right, but it's really not.
Wow. Well, so here we are now. Then, okay, we're at the edge of this thing, and things feel okay, but they don't fit. You know what I mean? It doesn't. I know. I feel in my mind I may have made a bad decision, but now here I am, and now what am I thinking? What am I doing now? What is my position? What is my mindset? What is my spiritual disposition? What is my emotional disposition? How am I looking at this relationship, and how am I looking at me in this relationship now?
To be honest, I ignored a lot. Okay, because I felt like one thing a lot of people in this position feels like, okay, I feel like I'm okay. I did the right thing. I don't know why everybody else is upset. I don't know why everybody else sees a problem. I don't know why everybody else is saying this to me or saying that to me and saying I did the wrong thing. But it took me a lot to think, okay, sometimes you feel like people are in your business when you're doing the wrong thing. And one thing I thought was, when there's a fire alarm,
Mm-hmm.
a fire alarm doesn't go off if it's not a fire.
Right.
So the people that surround you, they're alarmed and they're alarming you and warning you because there's something wrong, something that's going to happen, and they see it and you don't. But until you can see it yourself and feel it yourself, you will just keep living it, and you're going to keep going further and further into it. And that's what I was doing. I felt like I was fixing things by changing my behavior, changing myself. Like, it got to a point where I didn't even know who I was anymore.
Mm.
I was becoming something that I didn't know because I thought me changing me would make my situation better, but it wasn't. I was
Wow.
losing everything
Wow.
while I thought
Wow.
I was fixing everything, and I wasn't. It was just such a warped way of thinking. I didn't even know what to think sometimes.
Wow. What were you doing? Okay, you weren't in a relationship by yourself.
No.
You know, and I'm saying it because the
Mhm.
question I'm going to lead to. Okay, you're not in a relationship by yourself. You're not existing here by yourself. You're not living here by yourself. You're living with someone else. And this someone else, did it ever come up, or did you ever think that this person that you're now involved with, this person that you're now married to, this person, they need fixing? And how can I fix them? How can I,
Mhm.
you know, and what pressures did that put on you as you begin to not only take on the responsibility of fixing you or making yourself feel comfortable, making yourself feel acceptable in this thing, but also now you had to deal with somebody that somehow, some way looked like things weren't fitting right, and you had to somehow reach and fix them, or if that was the case.
Honestly, that was part of the catch that brought me in, because it's like this person is feeding damage. So now I'm feeling like, okay, well, now I got to fix this because they're coming to me and they're damaged. They didn't have this, they didn't have that. I can do that. I can
Wow.
get that. Even though I don't have anything, I still can give you that. I
Mhm.
can help you fix that. But then it just became toxic. You know what like gaslighting is?
Mm-hmm.
It became that, like, you're doing this and you're doing that, and if I come up to you and I bring
It's
it
no
up,
point, yes.
you're looking at me like, no, it's not. So now I'm questioning
Right,
myself.
right,
I'm
right.
questioning my own sanity. I don't even know what to do because I'm
Right.
trying to help you, trying to fix you, trying to bring it up, but you're telling me it's not happening.
Wow.
So now I'm questioning my sanity, questioning everything.
Wow.
I'm just lost.
Wow. And you know, that's amazing that you brought that up, because as I was doing some studying and stuff in preparation, one of the main key things that comes up in toxic relationships when they begin to manipulate or begin to
Mhm.
they gaslight,
Mhm.
and you actually begin to think a question in your mind.
Yeah,
Not only am I hearing it, are the people crazy that's trying to tell me
Right.
that I'm
Yeah.
crazy?
Then you find
Yeah.
yourself apologizing for things that you didn't do wrong. They
Yes.
did something
Right.
wrong. They're wrong, but you're apologizing so they'll
Yes.
stop being
Mhm.
wrong.
Yes.
Mhm. And you question everything
And
that you
they're the
do.
victim.
Mhm.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And you question everything you do even before you do it
Mhm.
and stuff. And you kind of warn them about corrective behavior.
Right.
You know, if you want to go talk to them, you want to reason with them, you come to try to make it easier for them to accept behavior
Mhm.
that will help the relationship to be functional
Right.
and stuff and not messed up. So gaslighting is one of the most powerful tools that narcissists and controllers use in a toxic relationship to make the other person feel responsible for what is going on, not only in the relationship, but what is going wrong in them.
Exactly.
You know, you see me doing this, but that's not me. You think I'm doing this because that's what you think
Or
about me.
you always think bad on me. You don't
Yes.
ever think anything
Yes.
positive. How am I supposed to be a good husband
Yes.
if you don't ever see anything good in me?
Wow.
So now I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so what am I supposed to do? Just be quiet and let you grow into what you say you're growing into, but I can't speak on it
Wow.
because that inhibits you.
Wow.
Wow.
So here you are, you're married or you're in a relationship and you're already making excuses for someone before they even do something. And you dare not say that they're doing something that you know they're doing, because then they're going to say, see, this wouldn't happen if you didn't say that was like me.
Right.
So your job is ignore that I'm
Yes.
dysfunctional right now.
Right.
Let me be dysfunctional until you're so dysfunctional that you deny that I'm doing this.
Yes.
And that's what gaslighting does. It makes you become just as dysfunctional as they are and treating you in this relationship. So here you're in a relationship and you're saying, look, this is going on. This has to change. And they're looking at you and saying, okay, fix it without me.
Wow.
Fix this without me. Don't.
But you need him
Mhm.
to play a part
Absolutely.
to fix it.
And you need.
But you can't make him be accountable. You can't make him take any blame. You can't make him take any role apart because he's not wrong. He didn't do it. You didn't see it that way.
Wow.
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 It's all you.
Mhm.
Wow.
You're the problem.
You're seeing it wrong because that's not what he's doing.
Wow. And this is most important. And I told him I want you to roll whenever you get, just roll. If it's something else you want to bring up, just bring up. This is most important because I want to bring all this in the pot and stuff. And then I want you to go ahead and roll as you. But what makes this most important is now Tony didn't go into this relationship and she didn't go into this marriage by herself. She had a son.
Yeah.
She had a child. So one of the most things that we always have to be aware of is that whatever you go into, whatever connection you're going to, and let me just cover everything because I don't want nobody to think that it's not just about relationships, it's about everything that you go into. When you have someone else that you're responsible for, it's harder when you bring someone else in your life that you become even more responsible for. You know, if you're on a job that's dysfunctional and toxic, you're gonna bring it home. It's gonna make you handicapped. If you have a friend that they're always needy and stuff, and they never can stand on their own 2 feet, then you're more responsible for them too. If you bring somebody in your life and stuff, and you try to build a life with them, and they can't stand on their own emotional feet, then you become responsible for them as well. So now what happens is there's a battle. Somebody's gonna fight for something that used to belong to somebody else, or something that didn't belong to them. So now you have to make a decision. So where are we at? How do we deal or balance this kind of relationship out, where it looks like everybody's always fighting for something because they think somebody else owes them something? And then when you bring them to a question about why do you owe this, then now you treat me like you don't love me. But
you
now
treat me like everybody else treat me. All of a sudden, I'm the victim.
Mhm.
Everybody else turned their back on me. Everybody else let me down. I guess you let me down too.
Yep, and that's the reverse. That's that reverse psychology, because now it's like, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the one piling on that everything, all the pain that you've been given. I don't want to be who left you. I don't want to treat you like them. So I'm not going to do that. Whatever you need to go through, you go through it. I'll just sit here and take it.
Wow. Wow.
So you sacrificed.
Yeah, so that you can be okay. I don't want you to feel that hurt again. So you can be okay. So I'll just take it.
Wow.
I guess there are a lot of people that are in types of relationship that feel that they have to sacrifice for the relationship so the other person can grow up to where they need to get to. And then when they grow up to where they need to get to, then I'll be better. But the only secret is they're not really trying to grow up there.
Now, people can be actors and manipulate.
They are satisfied where they are.
Absolutely.
The only problem is that when you sacrifice for the other person while they're claiming to get to where they get to, by the time they get to where they get to, you don't sacrifice so much you have nothing to do.
Yeah, you don't even look the same. You don't even act the same. You don't even feel the same.
Absolutely. Sis Veronica, you had a question?
I was just saying the same thing like Sister Tony was saying. Like, in my situation, was you just like my mom, you just like my grandma. You be doting on me, you making me feel less than a man, or you listen to everybody else and you don't never listen to me. And then I, like Sister Tony, lost myself because I try to fit in to make them happy because they always feel like everybody's letting them down. So I didn't want to let them down. I want to be one to misfix it.
It's amazing how we can become servants to other people's dysfunction.
Yes.
And again, that's across the board. We can become a servant to somebody else's dysfunction. But here we are now. We're in this relationship, and we know, that some change has to happen. Something different has to happen. Now, how that change comes about and what that change looks like is a whole different story. So now, here we are. Here you are, Tony. Now, in your mind, you're trying to fight to find some semblance of what life needs to look like, but you're not trying to mess up what they think life needs to look like. So here you're in a battle. So now, Tony, what's your fight? What's your battle? What do you do here?
I mean, when you're in a battle, it's on your mind and it's in your heart to go and voice and say what it is that you need, what it is that you want, what it is that needs to be changed. And I did that many times. I did. But it didn't turn out the way it was supposed to. It turned negative. So if I say, I need this to change, I need this, this, and this, because this isn't going to work, the other person would just check out.
Wow.
So it conditioned me to think, okay, every time I bring something up, this is going to be negative. So I can't bring it up anymore, because if I bring it up, then something bad is going to happen on the other end, which was manipulation again, because it was him conditioning me to say, you can't say anything about anything I do, because if you do, I'm going to do this, and you don't want that.
Right. You know, it's so amazing. So many times we've given men a pass to not handle stuff. You know, I can't talk to my husband because as soon as I start talking about bills, he checks out. If I start talking about what's going on, start talking about things that goes on. So what does she do? She puts all the weight of the whole family in the house on her shoulders and carries it and stuff while resenting him and stuff, and then resent herself after a while because of all the things she's done to herself while trying to keep the family together. And this man doesn't want to hear anything.
No. The funny thing about that was I was in that situation where I had everything on my back, but then I was told, you won't let me be a man, I can't be a husband.
Wow.
So I'm like, I had to figure it out, and I didn't know how to figure it out.
You had to make a choice between seeing everything go under versus hearing you're the problem.
And it got to that point where I was like, okay, if this is what I have to do, then this is what I have to do. And when I did that and let it go, everything did go under. I lost it. I found myself.
But you're supposed to be the man. Could you say that to them then?
I did.
Oh, okay.
I did. But it didn't.
Why is this happening?
Right.
You know, when I was carrying it, we weren't losing this, and this wasn't being cut off. But then when I stepped back to let you do what you say you're trying to do, all of a sudden, everything's lost.
Most men in this situation have a selective definition of what a man is.
Oh,
You know, their definition of what a man is that when I tell you what I don't want to hear, don't say it. When I tell you what I don't want you to do, don't do it. When I tell you what offends me, then don't do it. What
so he
offends
wants a
me,
puppet.
and then apologize. No, he wants a strong woman, but he wants her to be strong to everything outside of him. He doesn't want her to. He doesn't want her to face.
Right.
He doesn't want her to tell. Don't tell me my weaknesses. Tell yourself where you're not doing strong enough to make me a strong man. Tell me where you're not coming up to the place to make me a strong man and stuff. Because I'm coming to you. I told you when I first came to you, I'm broken. I told you when I came to you, I'm messed up and stuff. I told you I'm already coming to you to make you my nurse. So
Wow.
all I need you to do is be strong as you can to keep the house together, but then don't try to pull me in to be a strong man to help you. You know, you be the jack, and all I be is a leveler. I'll tell you how level it is.
Right.
You the one gonna be the jack.
And then you give me the credit for being a strong man, even though you did the work.
Well, I don't care if you give me credit. Just don't tell me when I'm not doing it. I don't really care unless I ask you for something. I don't care if you never say that I'm okay, as long as you don't say I'm not okay.
Right.
As long as you just keep on doing what's necessary, I'm all right. But here we are. You know, you almost don't know what to say because anything that you say could be taken the wrong way.
Right.
But you know there's some things you need to say. And so when does it come to a point that where you just stop saying things? You just don't say anything. You just all of a sudden you're here and you look at them, and in the back of your mind you're shaking your head, but you don't shake your head physically because you know they're gonna take that as you're saying they ain't something. So now here you are. You realize I'm not gonna say to this man. I'm not gonna say, oh, if it's a woman, a man saying to him, then I can say to this woman, who husband or wife. Now here you are. How do you function with the solids? Not from what they don't say, but what you know you can't say. You don't say anything.
You just function. It got to a point where it was just like I was okay. That's who I was. I was okay.
Wow.
You do what you want. Okay. I'm not paying the bills. Okay.
So you checked
Wow.
out.
No.
Wow.
Because I couldn't do anything else. It got to a point where it was so manipulative that I had to depend on this person. I couldn't depend on anybody else but them. We had these kids. I was always about to have a kid. So it was like our life was in their hands.
These angels.
Our life was in their hands. So
These angels.
I'm not even going to. So I had to, in some ways, like dumb myself down because I knew that if I stirred anything up, it would be a mess. And I had these kids that I had to worry about. So I just had to take it.
Wow. Now here's something else I need you to talk about too, because there comes a time where kids to a man or woman like this becomes a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there are different ways that they can become a problem. And until those who are in toxic relationship understands that what you're fighting for or what you're fighting against, it may not be anything that you've ever experienced and stuff. It will throw you off balance when you first see it. So, can you explain the different ways that kids can become a problem to a man like this?
Well, at first, in the beginning, it was a problem because me and my son were like this. That was
Right.
I was all he had, he was all I had. So it was a problem because he felt like it wasn't normal. He felt like it was out of the ordinary. A mom and a son are not supposed to be that close. You're not supposed to do this for him. He's not supposed to have this. He can't do this, this, and this. And it was a very big issue.
Wow.
And what I came to know was it was because he didn't know that. He didn't get that when he was growing up. So he felt like what he got was right and I was wrong. So it was always a fight. If I did this, it would be something over here. So am I going to appease you to shut you up, or am I going to continue doing what I'm doing for my child? That was a decision I always had to make. And it was always a childish battle and fight.
Wow. One of the things I do want to say, and I hope that every woman who is single or in a relationship with a man that struggles like this to understand this. You can't fix what mama broke if he won't let someone be a mother figure to him.
And see, with this situation, it wasn't that he wanted to fix it. He always wanted someone to blame, something to blame.
Wow.
So it's always going to be with him because he doesn't want to fix it. He wants to be angry. He wants to have that as his patch that he can present to somebody to get what he wants.
Right.
That's not something he wants to fix.
Wow. Isn't that amazing? And sometimes we think that people don't always have a reason to be angry.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that come from broken situations. Absolutely. You know, if I hadn't experienced brokenness in my life, if I hadn't experienced where dad wasn't there, if I hadn't experienced that that mom wasn't always what mom needed to be. My mom was a great mom. She was a hard working mom.
Yes.
but I can't say I got all the nurturing that I needed to get. I didn't get all the lessons that I needed to get. Some of it was mine, and some of it was that she didn't know. She grew up and had to work early.
Yeah.
My dad was a Rolling Stone. Everywhere ladies hat was his own, and stuff. So that's just how it was. I had a stepfather that, that he drank, and he just did his thing. So I had a raw definition of what a father was all about. I did, but I sung a song.
She was. I said it really dark.
Oh.
Well, he left you with alone.
I was trying to remember the last part of the verse. That's why I just cut it off with him. But so I had all these mixed up things, ideals in my mind about what a father figure, what a mother figure was all about, and stuff. But I allowed myself to be committed to a process. I really did. I allowed myself to be committed to a healing process, to a process of learning and identity and stuff. When I came in, when Pastor Flowers and I first got married, I wasn't fixed. I was not fixed. I wasn't together. I didn't understand what it meant to be in a functional family, but I was willing at some stages to learn. Not all stages. At some stages, I was willing to learn. And when I learned it, I made myself responsible for what I do from that point on. And then all of a sudden, these children came and stuff, and I had to understand. Wait a minute, I could either blame what my daddy didn't do, what my mama didn't do, or all these kind of things, and then leave my kids out here trying to find what it means to identify what function is. So then, and so when we first got married, I remember when Brother Jamal was saying the same thing. I'd get a job and quit. I'd get a job, honest to goodness, I get a job long enough to get a Milky Way and a cheesesteak. I didn't stay on anything long, and I realized, wait a minute. I can make excuses of not trusting people because there was nobody that ever invested any trust in me, or that I ever invested any trust in. Or I can say, wait a minute, I can't waste myself like this. I can't waste her life like this. I can't waste my children's life like this. I can't. It wasn't anything about ministry. This was nothing about ministry. This was about life. I don't care what you do in ministry. If you can't learn how to function at a personal basis with people who are connected to you in life, ministry is not going to mean anything. No. So I had to bring myself to understand I got to be responsible and stuff. So why am I saying that? Men can come to you with all kinds of excuses about what mama didn't do. But where in this life are they going to take responsibility for what they're not doing? Mm-hmm. Somewhere in this life, I had to say, this is what I'm not doing. And one of the sad cases, and Tony can pick up on this, is that sometimes you run into a man that no matter how much you try to invest in him what's good, he still wants to make excuses for what's not good. He always wants to remember how they weren't there. Nobody ever cared about me. Nobody ever said anything good about me. And stuff. And the reality is that somewhere in all of our lives, somebody has tried to invest in us. Somewhere. Somewhere. Yes.
The thing I look at too with a lot of men and some women that are, in that area that we're talking about, is they will tell others how to get it done. Mm-hmm. But they can't seem to find a way to get it done themselves. Mm-hmm. Man, you need to do this here. You need to take care of your children. You need to do this. You need to get a home. You need to get a job. Hold on to a job. Tell them verbatim what they need to do, but they won't do it themselves.
The reason why it's so easy is that they have this strong, proficient woman in the home that they think they have in tow and stuff. So they tell that man what to do because they're not sure about what his future is, and they feel guilty to a degree about what they're doing, and know that, but they're not going to do what it takes to change. Mm-hmm. And they will tell, if you ask most men, even in that situation, how'd your wife? I got an awesome wife. Mm-hmm. Well, do you think you're doing all you can for your wife? Man, I got some issues. My whole life has been a whole lot of issues and stuff. I'm just trying to find myself and stuff. And then you ask, gosh, you've been on vacation that long. When are you ever going to go back home to yourself and find yourself?
And when you're ever going to deal with those issues? If you know you got issues, what
Absolutely.
plans do you put in place to work with it? And how long do you think somebody else is supposed to swallow those issues because you have those issues?
Well, the question is, Tony, I don't know what you have. Is anything you want to bring out before? Tony, here you are. Why don't you just leave? Why don't you just get up and just leave?
I mean, it's really not that easy. First, it's you put yourself in this situation knowing everybody else thinks that you shouldn't have did it. So part of it is pride because you don't want nobody saying, I told you so. Mm-hmm. Like, I told you so. I pushed you right over the ledge after you lost everything, you dropped everything, you feel so hurt. Somebody saying, I told you so is going to push you over.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. It was pride. I didn't want anybody saying, I told you so. I felt like I can't fail at this. I've got these kids. I decided to get married. So I'm just going to try as hard as I can. 2 is I did leave. I did try to leave, but it's manipulating words that I allowed. And now looking back at it, I can't blame the other person for everything because I did allow a lot.
Mhm.
I allowed it to reel me back in. Every time I got reeled back in, I was in deeper.
Wow. Wow.
Sometimes it's hard to gain footing and traction when you just allow yourself to just be manipulated and manipulated and manipulated. And you feel like, okay, I'm the Band-Aid here. And if I leave, this person is going to fall
Wow.
apart rather than worrying about myself.
Now the guilt starts to hit.
Right.
You know.
So I feel guilty for staying in a place where I'm not being valued, I'm not being taken care of, I'm not being pulled into. And instead of me thinking to myself, well, I need to leave and get myself together, all I'm thinking is, if I leave,
Now you feel guilty again.
And I feel guilty.
Wow. Wow. Isn't that awesome?
That's awesome.
You know, sometimes we think to ourselves. I remember we used the illustration I was talking to from when Talisha was talking about, oh gosh, I should talk about the job, should have. But the job she was on, well, retake it. Look. Well,
Well, I had a question. Hold on to your thought for there for a minute. I had a question. Hold on to your thought for a minute. I had a question with Tony. We know the situation. We know what went on. We know, the decisions that you had to make. We saw you in a lot of thought, a lot of time. We saw how when things came up, how you worked very, very, very hard to solve them. And how when things come up, most time they fly the coop and you're left there to fix it. And a couple times you allowed them to come back in after it was fixed. Now, can you talk on that about how sometimes, what makes a female fix it and then let that person come back?
Desperation, honestly.
They didn't
feel
help
like-
you to fix it though.
But your mind isn't there. When you're in that situation, your mind isn't thinking logically. You're desperate. You want to keep your family together. You want to keep your husband. You want your kids. You want everybody to be in the same place. It's desperation. No matter how embarrassing it looks from the outside, no matter how embarrassing sometimes it feels, it's desperation. Okay, you went and did this. We'll talk about it. Okay, well, if you want to come back, just come back.
and it's easier for us.
It's not
Yeah.
logical,
Right.
but
Right,
when
right.
you're in it, it feels logical.
Right.
You can say it's not logical,
Right,
right,
right.
but to me, it is.
And that point, that situation, and what I was talking about was, I wasn't talking about nobody else. I didn't get this from nobody, but the circumstance was, remember when this, Lord Jesus, help us. This 20-year-old guy who was molested by his father-in-law at 8 years old, and we think to ourselves, how can this older guy at this age allow this to happen? Well, if your mind is frozen at a certain stage, it seems helpless to do anything else. Sometimes when we can get into relationships where we've been, what's that word again? Kitchen sink, all that kind of stuff. What we was talking about? Gaslighted. So when we find ourselves victim of being gaslighted, all ability to reason what other reasonable people would think is reasonable, we lose that, because everything now goes to, if I walk out and they came to me as a victim, they're going to be victimized again. So I don't know if I want to be a part of that. And then I want my home, I want my marriage and stuff. So I want to do everything I can. And I know they messed up, so they can't do it all by themselves. And then I got these children. I don't want these children to walk around without a father, even though he's maybe not being the kind of father he needs to be. But at least he's a man in the house. So what would seem reasonable to us who have the energy of outside is reasonable to the one who's captivated on the inside. Now, by no means as Tony, as Pastor, or myself saying, no, I'm not saying we don't do nothing.
No.
But let's understand why sometimes we're not doing what we need to do. And sometimes it's not as easy as, let me get up and go, because now I've given them the power to reason with me when it's not reasonable. And so here we are at the point, the next question, here we're at the point is, when you get to a place and you say, I'm through.
Yeah.
I'm just through.
Yeah.
I'm finished. There's nothing working out here and everything. Is it good? Is it profitable? Is it beneficial for me to go to them and let them know, look, I'm through. I'm not, I don't think this is working out. I don't think we can work out. Because I know we talked about one time that there's a place and time when you had to say, you know what, if I keep going to them, they're going to give me reasons why I shouldn't. And I'm going to fall for it, because they're good. They're good at talking. And they tap in some things that I don't want to see come to pass. I want to see my home broke. I don't want to see people looking at me and saying, I told you not to. I don't want to feel like people are saying that I'm not to, because I'm responsible for the choices that I made. I'm just responsible for the toxicity because of the choices I made as the one who's bringing the toxicity. So now how do I handle this? How do I talk to this person, or do I talk to this person? What is our conversations going to be like?
So for me, I couldn't have conversations like this face to face, because I would be wherever I was at, and I would say that when I get there, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that, this is going to be like this is going to be like that. And as soon as he opens up his mouth, everything and all the confidence I had was gone. So now it's going to be whatever it is he wants, that's what it's going to be. Part of what I want may be in there a little bit. It might be a little bit of change, but nothing that I wanted, or nothing that I wanted to say would come to pass. Or I would say, you know what, this is done. I'm not doing it anymore. And it would be certain things and actions and words I didn't like for him to say or do. And he would say it and do it, and he knew that would hit me. And I would be like, you know what, well, I'm gonna back up. I'm just gonna, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to say that. So it would make me back off. So when it finally got to a point where it was like, you know what, it's over, we were separate. He wasn't around, and it was no chance of him being around. So it made it easier, gladly. It made it easier for me to say, you know what, this is done, this is over, let me go ahead and do what it is I have to do.
And that's where you know your strength from.
Yes.
Because the situation happened where they called, so to speak, when am I gonna come home? Why don't you let me come home? But you were stronger then.
I mean, that was happening all along. I mean, it can happen tomorrow. But I'm just saying it, for me, what made me have to think in my head, you know what, I need to get away from this, was me being absolutely embarrassed, absolutely broken, absolutely lost. I had to get all the way down to the bottom for me to be like, you know what, Tony, I don't know why you're doing this. You don't know why you're doing this. Nobody else knows why you're doing it, but you need to stop it.
Absolutely.
I had to feel something that I never felt before in my life ever, to finally realize, you know what, that's it. You have to stop.
Okay, if you could name that feel, what was it?
I don't know what it was. I was embarrassed. I was empty. I felt sorry to my kids. I felt sorry to everybody. I just felt sorry and empty and embarrassed. And I felt like I needed
sorry to your kids.
I
That
felt
you
like
put them in.
sorry to my kids that I put them in it. Sorry to my kids that I chose the life that I chose for them. Sorry to myself. Sorry to people around me. Just embarrassed and empty. And I think I needed to feel that, because if I didn't, I would have continued going
Say
back.
it again.
Wow.
It would have continued. I had to feel that.
Absolutely. Sometimes, we try our best to stay away from, or try to keep people to staying away from certain feelings that will bring a change in their life. And like you said, sometimes we need to feel the embarrassment of where a relationship is taking us to, in order to realize that we need to make a choice for ourselves about how we're going to handle ourselves towards this relationship.
And me being who I am, where I like to keep stuff, it was important for that to happen. It was important for it to come out. It was important for people to know. It was important to feel like people were pointing and laughing. It was important for me to feel that, because then it brought everything else back. Like, this was probably happening the whole time, Tony, and you just didn't realize it because you were so far in it. Do you want to keep doing that? Do you want to keep feeling embarrassed? Do you want to keep feeling sorry?
Wow. Well, I'm sure there are a lot of people who may watch this later, or some who may be watching this now, who may look and may have an opinion about this, and look at women in this situation and think that they're just gullible and they're weak. No, their strength is suspended. And sometimes their strength is suspended because they think that what they can do is make that other person better, and all they're doing sometimes is making themselves worse. We in many cases, there's some friendships that we get into, and that friend is not good for us. That friend is not a benefit to us, and we suspend our own value to try to help that friend to discover the best in them, and we do that
and not realizing you're losing yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's so funny too, because at the end of the day, even though with the marriage, and it's weird for me to say that was my friend. So I felt like, okay, this is my friend. I have to make sure he's okay.
Wow.
I can't let him be hurt. I can't, because he came in, it was like, I've never in my life had somebody care about me, somebody think about me, somebody do this. If this happens, people always leave me. So are you gonna do that? It was like one point where something was getting ready to happen. He was about to go away, and he was like, well, I know you're gonna just leave, so I'm gonna just leave. And that was like manipulation, because then I was like, oh, no, I'm not. You don't gotta leave. Don't leave. I'm begging him to stay when I should just let him go.
Wow.
Yeah. Hypersensitive, faithful people need to get healed before they get in relationships.
So you had to prove that your loyalty was stronger than what he was trying to allow it to be.
Absolutely.
Why do you have to prove anything?
That's a hard question, because it's not from the standpoint of prove. I guess you can use that word prove,
Prove I'm
but
not like
I just want
everybody
to show I'm not going to let you down.
Mhm.
I want to show you that when I claim myself a friend or someone that loves you, that I'm gonna be there. But sometimes we don't recognize because of how much we're sacrificing and how much we're closing our eyes and ears to, that we're sacrificing more than necessary. We're giving up more than necessary and stuff, and so it takes a whole lot of giving, and we're ignoring that there's not a whole lot of receiving.
Mhm.
But here's a question I want wherever we want to go back to. Here's another question I want to throw at you, because we talked a lot about guilt. We talked about guilt where it looks like, maybe, but some may even say, I quit you. And then the person comes and say, no, don't quit me. I'll try. I'll do better. Okay. And they take 2 steps forward and they bump heads again. And then before you know it, they take 3 steps backwards and broke up again and stuff. But we feel guilty. And then we make that final breakup and stuff. All the other things in between, we probably need to hit as well. But the guilt, I think sometimes that is most detrimental to the person is the one that is guilty and said, God, I wish if I could do that all over again.
I often think of that.
I would do it differently.
I often think of that. I remember the exact day that I met this person, and I was like, I just wish that day it was just a different attitude, just a different interaction, and maybe things would have turned out different. All the time I think of that.
Right.
I feel guilty because of all the time I wasted. Just it's a lot. Sometimes I don't feel as guilty as I did anymore because the guilt is toxic. So I don't feel as guilty, but I felt
Unless you get healed.
yes, absolutely. That's why I can speak about it.
Yeah.
Right.
But I felt very guilty because of the time I wasted. I felt guilty because of the kids. I felt very guilty with Jaden, my oldest child, because I felt like, did I damage him something? I felt really bad. Did my decisions damage him at all? And he's not the type of child that talks a lot. So he's not gonna be like, well, this happened and I didn't like this, I didn't like that. He's the type of child that's like, it's okay, Mom, it's all right.
Wow.
But still sometimes in me, I don't know.
Wow.
So I feel that was the biggest guilt was, did I damage my child?
Wow. Well, I hope whatever situation that we're in, that we're really thinking about that. Sometimes at parents, what we try to do is I'm just doing it not to wipe the sweat off. Sometimes we try to close our eyes to things that we take our families through, and we just hope and we pray that maybe this has not damaged our children.
Yeah.
And sometimes it may not. Sometimes they may go through, but there's sometimes that there may be some damage. There may be some issues that's left. There may be some residue things left and stuff. And then we never know until sometimes, even after a while, we begin to talk or pray that child comes to you and they begin to reveal some things and stuff, but we don't know. But here's the thing, the reason why I asked that question. One of the worst things we can do to ourselves is wish we could do it over again and do it differently. Because the reality is, and this is the hard fact that sometimes I have to slap ourselves in the faces, you can never do that again. I mean, you can never have that do-over. Whatever mistakes, whatever bad relationships you went into, whatever choice you made, whatever bad man you choose, whatever bad woman you chose, that's a part of your history that teaches you now and stuff. You can't feel guilty because you made that you know what? And I know some may think I'm being religious. Ooh, that was part of who you are now, not who you were then, but who you are now and stuff. And that makes you more qualified to say to people. Now, there's a lot of people that went through bad relationships and they made some choices and stuff with their eyes wide shut and stuff, and they made bad choices because they thought they were better than what they were. There are other people who thought they could be better for other people than what they could be. These are the people I'm talking to. I'm not talking to the ones who just thought there was a can of soup and with Campbell's on it. I'm talking to the ones that thought they could be better for someone else. They had this Florence Nightingale syndrome, didn't think they had it and stuff. And they just want to help somebody. Yeah. They saw so many people broken. They saw so many people messed up and stuff.
To the red flags.
Absolutely. They just jumped in because they
felt like you were needed and wanted by somebody else. So it was like, I've never felt like this before. So I'm going to stay around here because somebody needs me. Somebody wants me. I gotta fix this.
Absolutely. But let's jump back. And I think especially all single mothers. I got all my girls are single and stuff, and they're mothers. So the single mothers. So my job, my thought is that whatever relationship you get into and stuff, and we got young ladies here who are single and stuff, unless they got a husband somewhere that we don't know about it. When they go away, we don't know what they may have done. They may have went away and got maybe married and stuff. I don't know. I don't know. She may have went to the justice of the peace, like you said. I don't know. She come back off of happy and stuff. I don't know. She got married or whatever. One day she stand up and testify, say, God, she had the choke. Come on out. Loose him, let her go. And stuff. We don't know. She might stand up in the testimony service. I thank God for my husband and stuff, and then look at us like we supposed to clap our hands and stuff. But whatever you do, and you can speak on this because you open this thing. Whatever you do, recognize that you never go into a relationship by yourself, because you're introducing somebody to your life and to the one that you brought in life, to your world, that's going to have an impact on everything that you love, everything that you care for. They're going to have an indirect or direct impact on that stuff. And after it's all over, every relationship that we go into that is not successful. Some relationships you go into is going to fail. Some you're going to go into, they're just not going to make it. Can I be honest with you? We said this some years ago. All marriages are not going to make it. Don't kill yourself over it. Don't ridicule yourself over it. Pick yourself up and go on. Don't always make it because I made a bad choice. Make it because I made a bad decision. And the decisions I made and the choices I made in this decision sometimes caused me to be toxic or caused me to be a part of a toxic situation. But I did it. It's over. Let's go on. But now I got to clean up some pieces. And when you brought that up, I hope a lot of mothers think about this, that don't just come out and the only one you bring out is you, and not understand that there's sometimes some people get caught up in the net, and we have to wonder and figure out to ourselves. And that was a profound statement and stuff. Did my son get hurt by this? Did my child get affected by this? Now, when they see me go into another relationship, now here's the thing we need that really help with that when they see me go into another relationship, will they not trust my choices? Not because they don't believe that I can make good choices, but because of what was left in them from the other one. So I got to make sure I clean that out, because I want them to be part of this. I don't want my son, just hypothetically, I want my daughter, I want my child left out of this process as we begin to develop this relationship. And I don't want them always mistrusting someone that I've learned to trust, that this is a better person, that this is a person that we can trust. I want to be able to bring them in this trust. And if we never evaluate how did they get hurt in this process, we will never be able to bring them in it when it's time to cultivate the better part of this relationship. So it's a different thing. Yes.
If that be the case where they did get broken, and part of how do you, and they tell you, but sometimes you think it's manipulation, sometimes I think it's real. But how do you get past the point of trying to help them if you did kind of ruin them? Because I kind of think I kind of ruined him with my marriage and the other one. The Xavier, he was at my mom's, and then the second one, he was in school with my daughter at the time. So I never really had to push him off like I did Martis, with thinking I was doing him a favor. Go ahead, enjoy yourself. Go ahead, do what you want. Not knowing that he was getting hurt in the process. And now I hear it sometimes, but I don't know exactly what it is.
Good question. One of the things that has to happen is, and it's the process like Tony's showing here tonight, and like I've said it to you, I said it to all of us, and that is, I can't heal him until I show that I'm strong. And I gotta show, and I'm gonna say this word, I gotta show him, because he thinks my children can think in being broken like this, that I'm needy. I need to show him. And I don't mean that in a downplay. I'm just, my child needs to understand. And what would he get, or what would my child get to think that I'm needy? Because I put up with things that I would not, that they've never seen me put up with before. And if somebody put more emphasis on wanting a relationship, no matter how ragged that relationship is, because I wanted someone to love, I needed someone to preoccupy or occupy my time. My child needs it. That broken child, that child that got lost in this process, needs to understand, I'm not that needy woman anymore. I'm not that needy woman who's gonna put up with a whole lot of mess, a whole lot of pretension, a whole lot of you ain't gonna just tell me anything, because I know what I'm worth. I understand my value. When they understand that, and they can see that you're developing and stuff without a man and stuff, except Jesus, when they see you developing, you can go into healthy relationships. You can have healthy conversations and stuff. And every man that comes up and stuff that would normally, that he would think would normally trip you, don't trip you. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Food line is good. I'm going over to Walmart and stuff. And you're good. And that starts a process of them trusting their heart and attention back to whoever you bring into our life. Whoever you bring into our life will be beneficial, not only to you, but be beneficial to what we have. So now I can leave mom home, or I can leave mom by herself, and I don't have to come home and then her head's dropped, or I feel the atmosphere that's so thick because she's feel destitute because he hasn't called or he hasn't done what he need to do and stuff. And all I do is hear her complaining about what he's not doing and stuff. That process starts and stuff when you start to fill your confession, your day with how valuable you are and how strong you are and how you came into this. You're not always coming from something, you're coming into something and stuff. And I mean in all reality, sometimes it has to stop coming out to coming into something. And I think one of the things that made one healthy, and one of the things that make your children healthy, is that mom identified what our relationship is. That, if someone comes into my life and stuff, if someone's dating me, they understand what part of the line they're in. One man said that she spends a lot of time with her children and stuff, and all she does, she's best a lot of time with her children and stuff, because they understood that she made it clear, you're somewhere, it's God, it's me, it's and us children. Then you can come down one line after that, and that's how we do things. And if we can't keep that stand and don't make them understand it, you'll always be sacrificing relationship from the people that need you the most and stuff. So, but that's the key. Yeah. And then why did they say it when they're angry? Because they were angry when you were doing it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so now they get angry, and they feel like they were back then. So they say what they say when they were angry now, how they were angry then and stuff. So, but they're not living back there, but that's what they're doing. They're trying to avoid something. What you wouldn't hear. You know what I'm saying? When we're in these situations and stuff, we hope that we could hear, or that we would hear the cry of our children, but sometimes we don't. Sometimes we don't hear them crying. We can go ahead, especially if they're older. It's kind of harder if they're younger. We probably won't ignore the cry, but if they're a little bit older, we come on, boy, go ahead now, or girl, go ahead. But but the thing is, now I'm going to demonstrate myself strong. Do I want a husband? No, not me. But do you want a husband? Yes, you want a husband, but I don't need one. I don't need one. What can God send me one that's beneficial? Yeah, but I'm gonna be beneficial to him too, and he's gonna have an ear.
Yeah.
He's not just gonna have a body. He's not gonna just have an eye. He's not gonna just look at my daughter and say, "Man, she's pretty." He's not gonna just notice how pretty he is. What is her design? What is her cause? What is her purpose? And what part do you play in this?
Exactly.
If I always have to tell you what part you play in this and stuff, and the only thing that distracts you is what I look like. If that's the only thing that distracts you and stuff, then no, you're not the one. Because I'm more than just a body and stuff. So, but anybody want to add anything?
No, for real. The last thing you said about being more than just something that's superficial or surface, I didn't know that then.
Wow.
So I didn't consider that, because at the very beginning I was thinking today, we had conversations and I would always want to know, well, what is it about me? Or it was one time we had went to you had some type of marriage thing, and you would ask a question and he answered it, and I wanted to crawl underneath of my seat.
Wow.
Because of the answer that he said. It was so superficial, it was so surface, and I was like, that's all he thinks of me. He doesn't even know who I am. And now I consider it, and like I should have known then, but I just didn't. I didn't recognize it.
Right. And that's one of the things about going on. What we don't know, what we did not know then, we can absorb it and go on. Again, remember I used the thing about, God, man, I wish if I could do that all over again, I wouldn't do the same thing. You don't know that. I mean, you can say it now because we had the information and we have the experience to say not, but you didn't have the experience back then. Right. So if you were back into the same point with the same kind of question, the same kind of challenge, you do the same thing again. It's amazing how information, experience, and stuff will give us the strength and the wisdom to not do what we did back then when we're not there no more. So the thing is, we learn and we grow from this. And I want to say this before we see if Tony have anything else you want to add, Pastor have anything you want to add before we get ready to close. I think we need to. I think you need to do more of this, because I think there's single ladies out there, and I'm throwing this out there. If this has been beneficial to you, share it. And if it's been beneficial to you, drop us a line and let us know if you want to hear more stuff like this. Geez, well, I'm looking over there. I sure was, wasn't I? If you want to hear more stuff like this, because we do have to deal with it. It doesn't always feel good to go over things. And I remember, sometimes we don't like to deal with things that have caused hurt, division, or problems. Mm-hmm. But until we deal with what's causing me to mess up, I can never get to what causes me to be better and stuff. So there are some things that we do need to talk about. There are some things we need to discuss. There are some bad choices that we try to just close our eyes and our ears to and stuff. But when we come face to face with them, we realize I have really grown from this, and I've done.
But one good thing too that, she pointed out is she took responsibility. She didn't just take all of the things
Absolutely.
and place it on the other person. She took responsibility. Plus, she said to a point, she said, I made some bad decisions, but then she can also say, and then I made some good decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
I began to work towards the good decisions to turn things around for myself and my kids.
Absolutely.
I couldn't wait for somebody to come and say, I'm sorry. I couldn't wait till somebody to come and say, well, I'm grown up now. I had to make a decision.
Absolutely.
And so that's the thing that I look at with her. She took
Absolutely.
responsibility. It was embarrassing, but
Mhm.
she took responsibility. She came to a point where said, I can make some changes. I made some bad decisions. Yes, this was a bad decision. That was a bad decision. But guess what? I also made some good decisions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the part of going forward. Anything else you want?
I do want to just say, when you were talking about the kids and the guilt thing, for me, it's a different perspective with Jaden, and why I felt like it was so bad with him was because I didn't consider him in anything.
Wow.
Jaden went to school and came home, and his mom was married, so I didn't consider him. He didn't have a chance to know mom is going to make this big decision
Wow.
that's going to change the rest of your life. I never considered him when, okay, I'm going to move here. I didn't ask Jaden. He wasn't considered. And even the other party, to him, that was another playmate. So it wasn't like it
Wow.
wasn't like he was getting anything negative. The negative was coming from me because I was changed and I couldn't be the mom that he was used to.
Wow.
So he wasn't getting what he used to get. He wasn't getting my attention. He wasn't getting me being there and us doing
Yeah.
things and having just that fun, carefree life because he was a boy and I was allowing him to do that. That's the damage that I felt like I was giving
Wow.
him. So now I've become what I used to be with all of them. But that's what hurt me the most in the guilt
Wow.
was because I never considered him. I didn't consider him at all.
Wow. I think sometimes, Tony, and I think all people need to consider this. We can raise our children, we can raise them well, and they get to a place where, we feel they understand who we are. And then we get into a relationship, and we have to be careful that we're not trying to get our children to make room for us to have a relationship, and not the relationship to make room for us to be a parent.
Mhm.
See, because if this doesn't work, if my relationship doesn't work out, I'm always be a parent. If my relationship does work out, I'm still
okay.
always going to be a parent. So what we have to be careful about is not be so preoccupied with developing or walking into a relationship, and even especially this is most important if you come into marriage with a child. You can't excuse that child from that marriage or from your life. It's not because you're trying to build a life with a person that you just married. Especially if you said that I thought that was awesome too. You never even considered this child. She said something that was so profound. Child went to school, Jaden went to school, came home, and somebody's added to his world.
Yep.
Now his mom is no longer Miss Flowers. She's now Mrs. So-and-so. I would say it. She's Mrs. So-and-so and stuff. And he comes home, and now listen, and this is the thing that I don't think we think about. Not only is the dynamics of the house changed, his mom's name done changed.
Yes.
She is not who he identifies.
We're not the same anymore.
Right. Wow. Yes. Yes.
Mine is not the same exact situation as Tony as far as me being married and changed. But mine was like, one was 16. So he in school and it's like, he going on by his business, I'm telling go, just enjoy. And then when the teachers called me finally to say, oh, Marcus is failing. I'm like, Marcus, you failing? Oh, Mom, you ain't asked me for a report card all year. We're on our second semester.
Oh,
and now you want to say
wow.
something to me about failing? So that I
Wow.
was embarrassed because I didn't ask him about a report card. I don't even remember what a report card time was. I never asked him. I was just enjoying myself. Just doing what I want to do. You was fine. Now you want to say something. The teacher said something. You didn't ask about the report card all year. Think about how small I felt.
Absolutely. Sometimes life can pass us while we're trying to build life. Then when life steps us in the face, we think, "Ooh, this was going on." It's so much to talk about this that I don't want to just do one and then stop, because there's so much to talk about. And I pray that go ahead, babe.
When you look at the dynamics of relationships, it's got so many fragments, and to forget one of the fragments or to not minister to one of the fragments, it can cause a detriment.
Absolutely. But piggybacking off Sister Veronica's neglect. No, Sister Veronica's statement that she made here. Can you imagine your child going through a dilemma in life, and you're so busy with life in your dilemma that when your child comes or when someone else warns you of what happens to your child and your child looks at you, and I'm not, that's good, we're moving on. And someone calls and tells you what's going on with your child, and then you question your child about what they told you, as if you thought they should have told you.
Right.
And the child says, I'm adding words to try to fill in some filler. If she asked him, why didn't you tell me you were failing? He'd look at her and say, why would I tell you? You wouldn't listen to anything else I was telling you. You know, like when she said, are you failing by the report card? And he says, well, you didn't ask me for a report card all year long. Why you asking for one now? We never, in all the things that we do in our developmental relationship, never leave a hole that it makes our children feel like we're not concerned until the concern embarrasses us.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Till the concern embarrasses.
That's what I was thinking when you were saying that, you know, sometimes, you know, even what we're talking about tonight, it's like you come to a point where you flip over backwards to make sure this one know you care and that you're there, but you forgot that the other one, your child, is thinking that you don't care and that you're not there and that you're changing.
Absolutely. Listen, I want to. We not this Wednesday coming, but the Wednesday after next. I want to do another one, but I want to get to the part about let's have the conversation. You know, where you start to talk and you start to have the conversations. What goes on in these kind of conversations? What do you say to this person, or what you don't say? What do you say to yourself? What kind of conversation do you have with yourself leading up to a conversation that you believe or think will either fail or not fail when you're going to this person? So we want to talk more in depth about that. Was there any questions up there? I can't see it from here, Tony. I don't know if it's any.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Just people saying that. Coco and Shanika and Shay.
Okay.
I think another conversation should be added to the topic too is when you're in a relationship with a blended family, your kids and his kids, and the way that they should be handled, and the way that they want you to handle their kids versus the way that they handle your kids. You understand what I'm saying? I think that topic should be talked about because we find in relationships a lot of times there's a big problem there.
Now, in your situation, I don't want you to talk about it because I want to talk about it I want you to talk about it on the next broadcast. When you got married, they had children, and situations came that almost made responsibility. They started coming to you, or they started reaching out to you, talking about some of the children.
Yeah, but that was honestly after we were done.
Right. Wow.
We didn't have much interaction.
Wow.
It was after.
Wow. Well, we want to talk about that on the next one. We got the next. We want to talk about that. I think this is important. I really, really do. Because it not only helps those who have to deal with it, but those who what you do after it's over, after you've said it's enough and stuff. So any questions before we close out? I think this was good. I hope people enjoy this. Please do us a favor. Share it and stuff. Be quiet, computer. Share it. Please let somebody know. We got the next, not this Wednesday coming, but the following Wednesday. We're going to do another one.
Yes.
And we're going to talk more about some of the things that we talked about that we need to have the conversation and we need to deal with.
Yes.
Okay, I'm in this thing. And sometimes in these relationships where things sometimes the children on the other side becomes a difficult problem to the relationship and stuff. And sometimes we, as time goes on, we realize why they may have been a difficulty. And then how do you deal with that while you're in it and then after you come out of it? So we're going to talk about that on the next broadcast. Listen, if you're out there and you enjoy this, if you want to sow a seed, you can do so to Cash App, $ FEDC 2020. Please, you can do so. But listen, God bless you. Please share this with someone else and let them know about the program and that we got the Wednesday after next coming up with another discussion that I believe will be beneficial to those who are struggling and those who don't think they're struggling and stuff, and how to deal with those things. Amen. So listen, God bless you. See you again on the next one. Amen. I was still looking at the thing because I know what it was.
It's kind of hard.